All right.
As I said, straight across the ground.
There you go, straight.
Out the wind.
We'll take that, yeah, exactly. A little fadey.
Christ.
Ollie, I want to start by taking it back to the beginning. Where did your kind of journey in motorsport begin?
I think I was about 10. It was actually motorsport / like motocross and different bits. So it probably stems from my dad. He always, I think, had a dream of maybe getting into motorsport and racing, but never had the opportunity. So he bought us like a motorbike for the field, and he would sort of go out and mow a nice little circuit for us, and we'd sort of drive around there. And I think he thought, how can we get this further and further? And for my brother's, I think 7th or 8th birthday, he bought a little go-kart. So then we sort of bought some go-karts, started driving them across the field, and then from there we sort of got into it and thought, okay, well, what can we do further from the field? We went to the local circuit, you know, and thought, we got two go-karts, how can we go out? No race suits, no helmets, and then and thought, let's have a go. And so that's where it started, but very, very, you know, we had no background in motorsport, and so I think that entry into it was quite slow and took a bit of time, but when we got into it, we were fully invested as a family and sort of loved the aspect of racing.
So what age did you kind of start doing races and actually start taking it quite seriously?
So I started when I was about 10, but as I said, we would turn up and we'd have our go-karts in the back of a trailer. My granddad was like my mechanic, and you know, we didn't have any wet tires, and at that point it was, you know, it's raining, I would just drive around on slicks because we don't have any wets, but no, don't change the gearing, and so at that point, so it took a while, but probably about 11, and then we started getting into it a bit more seriously in the local tracks, clay pigeon, and yeah, and then, you know, one thing leads to another, and then you're racing around the world.
So you and Lando were the same age when you started? Well, no, sorry, you were at the same time?
Same time.
You're 3 years older? Or two?
Yeah, just over 3 years. So we got into it at the same time, which was really nice because we could sort of build off each other and trade lap times and so on, and yeah, and push each other, which was good fun. It was good to do it that way, and nice to have someone every time on track together, that we could sort of push each other and race. And then I think at one point, actually, I did a different series because I think my dad was slightly worried about sort of too much competition, smashing into each other. So we actually did slightly different series. I did something called WTP, and my brother did Coma Cadets, and then we sort of merged again later on through racing.
Was there kind of a certain point where you realised that Lando was something special?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because in a way we were testing, or he was almost testing at such a young age at that point, and you know, we had motorbikes and quad bikes to the field, and you'd see him dart around on these things, and he was always like pushing it to the limits at like 6 years old, and you think, Christ. But in the racing, you know, he's naturally sort of, when he then progressed into racing and karting at age 8 and started racing, he was almost straight at the top quite quickly. And it wasn't until, you know, he won a few big sort of like the O plates in karting quite early on when he was young, and I'd broken my arm at the time, so I wasn't racing, and seeing that and thinking, you know, that was the youngest anyone's ever won it, and you think, oh, that's pretty impressive. And
I don't want to give him any credit, but I'm going to have to.
I wouldn't tell him.
Of course.
It was quite cool. So no, that, and then, you know, just every time he would jump up into a new category at the youngest possible age, and he was up there fighting for the sort of the championship at the earliest possible moment, and that was. So it wasn't necessarily an instant, but it was over sort of that testing period and those early years where I think it, sort of was set in stone. Almost.
But it must have been an advantage having an older brother doing the exact same thing as you, because you get to see the mistakes that they're making and be 3 years ahead of the curve and try and learn from them. You know, he could learn through you, I guess.
And I think though the nice thing was at that young age we pushed each other directly, and as I said, we would look at each other's lap time, and I think when a lot of people start, especially if they don't know what they're doing when they're getting into it, they're sort of just going around circulating, and we had each other to work off and build from and see that I did this maybe a little bit better and he did that, and we then pushed each other in those zones. And I think that was an early point where we were really pushing each other from a young age. I'd then move up a category, and then he would sort of move up a category sort of a year or two later. I'd maybe wait a year longer, as I wasn't quite as developed as he was. But we still compete these days on the sim.
Good, okay, good.
Yeah, we do a bit of iRacing together, and he is better than me.
You had the ins and outs, so you can like slightly, you know, turn his down a little bit, or...
Yeah, although he knows what he's doing, and you know, there's I say if I give me 40 laps, and then I'll give him 4 laps, and I think then we're about equal.
Oh, okay, fair. Shot, great shot, Ollie.
It's a bit better.
you stopped racing in 2014.
Yeah.
What kind of, was there a specific moment that made you realize that you should kind of stop racing and, you know, not pursue it as a career?
Yeah, I think it was, for me, it sort of became quite natural. I think, you know, I realized, I think I was about 17, 18 at the time. I wasn't at the front winning. I was competing against my brother, and he was obviously much, much younger, winning. And for me, I just thought, you know, how is this going to play out? And I just couldn't see myself reaching what I wanted to in Formula One. And for me, I know there's a lot of people where they think sometimes it's Formula One or nothing. And for me, it was that. And I struggled to see that happening. And so, you know, motorsport's expensive. If I was even debating that in my mind, and I wasn't, I think, fully confident that I could make it, I just didn't think I should ask my dad to invest more money into me to sort of pursue a racing career. And so I thought that money is probably better spent in other things, in terms of starting a business perhaps, or something a bit more with a bit of longer life in it. And so that's, I think, the natural point I got to in my mind when I was about 17, 18. And I thought that's a good time to stop. And I think it was at the end of the season. And I had a good run, had lots of fun, met and learnt a lot of things and a lot of people. And yeah, it was a good chapter. It's good. Look at that.
I'll take it.
Very much so.
Tell you what. Oh, great part. Great part. Ollie, you've taken your passion for motorsport and kind of put that energy into something pretty cool with cool performance simulators.
Yeah.
How did the idea for that come about?
I guess through racing and through the final parts of when I started testing a bit of cars, we started getting and using some sims at different teams. When I stopped racing, I was sort of looking at what to do next and keep involved in motorsport. And I partnered with a guy called Adrian, who's my business partner today still, and he also had the same sort of career as me, where he sort of aspired to be Formula One and didn't quite make it and looked to do something else. And Peter had already built a sim centre, so we sort of joined forces in that sense, or I joined to work with him, and sort of took this business idea of, instead of building a sim centre, how can we develop this out for drivers in their homes? And my brother would then come up and train at the sim centre, but actually said, well, how can we develop something that you would utilise these tools to be based at our house? And sort of that's where the idea started. And instead of travelling 2 or 3 hours up to go to the sim centre and then 3 hours down, it sort of would take up a whole day. But using the fundamentals, what can we do to do that at home? Oh, that's a good part. That was quite impressive.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I recently did a Google search on a name, and the first thing that came up was Lando Norris's brother.
Yeah.
Does that ever bother you?
No, it did at one point a little bit, but for the most part, I think I've learned just to see it and accept it, and I think my life has become a lot better in some ways because of it. And so in that sense, I'm fortunate he is my brother, and I'm happy for it. And at times, yeah, when you get introduced as, oh, this is Lando Norris's brother, at times you go, well, I'm Oliver, Lando's my brother. But for the most part, it's been a blessing, and I'm going down to see him later on this afternoon and spend some time with him, and I love it really. And yeah, it's been a good thing.
How was your relationship? Still the younger brother? You still
the younger? Yeah, I still managed to annoy him on just about every aspect.
Good,
but,
as you should.
But yeah, and we're still as competitive as ever, and we try to get some paddle games in and different things.
Who's better at paddle?
He likes to claim he is.
But you'll never give him that.
But I'll never give him. I would say, considering how much he's played, I'm definitely better.
He might as well be a full-time paddle player at this point.
I think he probably is in some places. But yeah, so I reckon I've got one up on him here. He's good at golf. I'll give him that. He's played his fair share though.
We'll cut that. We'll make that one make it. I think it's a really interesting thing because, look, Formula One's so popular, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I think it's a good outlook to be like, I think it's it's benefited my life in a way, or
yeah, massively so. And I can lean on him, for a few different things, and it naturally does help. And whilst people might look at it in some sort of negative things and different things, it's like ultimately it's brought more good than harm, right? And I look at it in the grand scheme of things.
And no matter how big or famous or idolized he gets, he's still little
Lando. Yeah, exactly. And as I said, still competitive. We still like to do whatever we can and sort of beat each other and compete. So as I said, we hack on the sim and we have a good time on there, and if he is getting away, I might give him a little tap out the way. So
that's a good outlook to have.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways people could view it, but
you're carving your own identity in the business space and obviously doing very well. So I think it's just different people doing different things at different times.
You could look at it and just sort of go, I want to hide away from it, and I don't want to be associated with it. But yeah, it adds a lot of credibility to stuff I do. It certainly helps, and we work with him still today on the sim side, and fortunate for what he's done and everything he's still doing. So it's good fun. Mate.
I saw it bounce. Okay.
That's pretty good.
A little bit of a fade on it.
And the rest.
Good strike. Yeah, good shot there. Your dad recently mentioned in an interview I saw where he talked about yours and Lando's upbringing, where you essentially had the exact same upbringing in terms of same time in the go-kart, same trainers, same karts.
Yeah.
But yet it was really interesting how just one of you ended up being better than the other. And the only thing he could put it down to was a genetic makeup. That Lando had a genetic makeup that just made him better at go-karting, and you have a genetic makeup that made you better at business. So I think it's really interesting that.
Yeah, and I think it's weird because, as you said, we did the same things, and I probably maybe wanted it more when I started. So I probably trained harder, or I went to the gym more, and so on. But it just. And maybe the only thing that was the anomaly is I started later in my life, and I was 10 or 11 by the time we started doing it properly, and he was 6, 7, and so maybe it was more made up in his genetic sort of makeup of just driving and having those reactions and understanding movement of a kart and car. And as we said, I'm dyslexic, you are as well, and sometimes that has probably things to play in the wider role of how you think about things and your thought process and your ability to maybe, I don't know, decipher sort of what you should do in those scenarios.
Bit slow.
Had a few bumps in that, didn't it?
Yeah. Oof.
Miles away.
Nope, rubbish putt. Good putt.
Just about.
Growing up, when you were go-karting, you kind of raced against some top talents, Verstappen, Russell, Stroll, I think Palou as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Could you always tell they were kind of destined to get to the top, or did any of them surprise you?
Certainly a few of them. Obviously, I had a really early memory of, I think I must have been 10 or 11. There's a go-kart track in Belgium called Genk. And we went there for the first time. I was in cadets, the smallest category, and I was driving along, and it was an open test session. Someone came past me, full speed down the straight, and I came in, I thought, what the hell is that? Later on I found out there was a little guy who was a little bit younger than me called Max Verstappen, but he was testing in what's called KZ2, so the top category in karting, which you would do when you're maybe 15, but he was testing that when he was like 9 or 10. And I suddenly realized I'm a little bit behind him, and and it was like little moments like that where I realized from an early age, okay, there's a lot of people quite a long way ahead of me, and when I started doing the British Championships, there's guys at the top who I wasn't nowhere near the front at the start, and you quickly learned who was on the right track. But I think it's not all down just the driving. I think there's other things that get involved as you go through along in your career, and I think some people get that right and some people don't, and some people get lucky and unlucky, and it's difficult.
I think it's gonna be okay.
I think so.
Oh. Great shot. Great drive.
Oh, is that in the bunker though?
Are you upset with that?
No.
I'm buzzing.
It's probably up there with my top 3 shots of my life.
That was a great shot.
That was mega. I was well chuffed.
Favourite F1 livery of all time?
The one McLaren ran when Lando scored his first podium in Monaco. Yeah, was it the Golf livery? They ran the Golf livery.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
I think Elon Musk's approach to life is pretty cool.
Favourite helmet design?
So Lando had his inspiration off Valentino Rossi. I liked Kimi Räikkönen's growing up, so I was sort of more of an Iceman fan.
Best piece of business advice you've ever received?
It's all possible. You just got to do it, and it's within you almost.
Who was your idol growing up?
Probably my dad, and still is.
Dream car?
The 812 Super Fast.
Ooh.
I think that's nice. Maybe the comp version as well.
Did you have any weird superstitions when you were racing?
I used to always get in from the left-hand side of my go-kart or my car.
Favourite track you ever raced?
There's a great track up north in Cumbria called Rowra. That was my all-time favourites. I think it's got a bit of everything to it. It's in the middle of a quarry. It's super windy up the top, but the track is a bit of undulating, goes up, down, hairpins, some fast corners. It's cool.
Give me your Mount Rushmore of Formula One, your top 4 drivers of all time.
I've got to say my brother. I think he's got to be in there. I think obviously Max is growing up and racing against him as well. You've got to put Lewis in there. I think Fangio.
Since Drive to Survive, the rise and popularity of Formula One's gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And that was kind of around the time when Lando got into Formula One. Can you remember the kind of first moment when you realised how famous he was? You know, my little brother's famous, what the hell? That's so random.
I think some of the bigger moments are when, you know, you're somewhere completely random and people are just spotting and finding you on the streets and running up for signatures and different things. And that's just like, you just think how or why do you recognise? And then, you know, also on my own socials, you know, lots of people just constantly messaging and you know, asking for potential signatures or can you send this message on? And you know, you think it's mad that so many people think that's the easiest way maybe to communicate with Lando, and you go, you know, why? But yeah,
was it pretty quick after getting into Formula One, or was it when he was announced in Formula One? Was it pretty like a snowball? Or was it kind of an overnight thing where you go, oh my God, we can't go for dinner without someone interrupting us?
I think it was a year or two. So maybe you're right about sort of the Netflix thing. You know, I think that really helped. And I noticed that in the sim world, that it really helped amplify America and a lot of people who haven't been involved in the sport. And I think that brought, so I think about a year or two after he was in F1, and I think he started creating a bit of a name for himself. You know, he'd got maybe his first podium or two, and yeah, that's when it started changing, I think, quite well for him. And you just get an unreal amount of sort of messages and people running around sort of chasing after him.
Because I was looking at your socials and the engagement's ridiculous. I mean, people are just, you know, obsessed, like even with you, and it could be a photo just of you and your family, and people go absolutely nuts for it, you know? Yeah. It's like, oh my God, you know?
I think there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of amazing fans out there who, you know, I guess a lot of them maybe come from around Lando and what he does, and who support, I think, Lando and our family in lots of different ways. And I think that's a really nice thing to see. And a lot of them are really positive, you know, nice people from around the world, and, you know, from all aspects. And yeah, I tried turning social media off for a while, so I don't think posted much for quite a while. And I thought actually, maybe I should turn it back on soon to re-engage and to share a bit more about what I'm doing, and, you know, think days like today, which I think are pretty cool and special.
I think the what's on the horizon for you is a future like TV reality series, the Norrises, you know, At Home with the Norrises. Forget the Osborns, At Home with the Norrises.
Oh, I don't think I could last that. I don't think I'd survive. I think I'd be cancelled.
You'd be cancelled within 5 minutes.
I think I would be cancelled.
It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'd go viral for the wrong reasons.
I trust me, I would too. All right. Bit right.
It was straight, but in the right direction.
Okay.
And the wrong direction.
We can work with that. Come left. Should run a little bit.
Nicely played. Well played.
Oh. Legend. Ollie,
with that,
thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. It's been great fun. No, I've had a great time.
Well, that was a bit awkward, wasn't it?
Yeah, should we redo that? Ollie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
It's been a pleasure.
No, I had a great time.